Live your life, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
Yeah, rear naked choke of Cocker Spaniel, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
Change the neighborhood up.
Conspiracy Farm. Go. Check it out.
Now I'll bring in our guest who's sitting next to me, Kevin Flack from Downrange Supplements and Downrange Excursions. He's done an awful lot for his fellow veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And kind of, Kevin, just give us a quick rundown of your history and what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Pat, Jeff, guys. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to sit down and chop it up with you guys.
Absolutely.
We work primarily, we target the veteran and first responder market in terms of the supplement company, and the nonprofit was the precursor to that, which we started back in 2015. And the whole premise is to promote healthy, active, alternative methods to help combat veterans and first responders alike mitigate service-related issues, right? Release natural endorphins through physical activity, grounding and collecting themselves through wilderness therapy, kayaking, just camping out in the grass, hiking, right? All those things, controlling cortisol levels and helping mitigate depression through proper diet and nutrition. And that's where the supplementation and physical fitness part comes into the supplement company. But these are all methods that have been used for an extremely long time, but they just haven't been prevalent in today's society because keeping people sick is return business, right? So we're in the business with Downrange Supplements and Excursions to promote healthy and active lifestyle with high quality products in terms to be able to literally give back to our first responder military demographics, not only representing them on the supplement side, but providing a platform for them to both those demographics to come together and learn how to actively mitigate these symptoms to continue to be productive in their communities and in their families alike, right?
And it almost sounds like he knows what he's talking about because he does. And, you know, I know a little bit of his history. And how many years have we known each other now, probably?
Oh, man, since about 2013, 14.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I've known him for a while. And we started talking several years ago, as he just mentioned. But, you know, Kevin's been through a little bit himself. You can tell him, you know, about that, you know, some of the injuries that you've had and moving forward, where you can relate to a lot of what these guys are dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was in about 8 years. I served with the 10th Mountain Division. I was an infantry squad leader by the time I got out of the service. But I'm 100% rated out now, combat post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, some other service-related issues. When I first got out, you know, I went to school, was doing the student veteran stuff, was trying to reintegrate, be a father. And I was also contracting as a family assistant specialist for the Guard Bureau. I was trying to learn what was going on with me. That's why I was going to school for psychology at the time. I actually ended up throughout that process, started having a lot of struggles with my service-related issues. Obviously moving to the Quad Cities too, where I don't have, you know, a real network aside from the child that I'm supposed to be raising to learn about or reintegrate properly. So I ended up in the St. Cloud VA Medical Center for about 3 months for treatment for PTSD and TBI. I left there. This is the beginning of the journey that caused me to really open up and was the catalyst, right, to Downrange Excursions and Supplements. You know, and the VA has phenomenal facilities and resources, right? They're federally funded. They can always get better at things. There's people there that are not preventative, which I am preventative, and there's people there that are like a factory line that just want to get you in and out, you know, and they treat with pills. But I don't want to take away from the good people at the VA and what they're trying to do. So they symptom analyze and treat, and that's unfortunate when it comes to the combat post-traumatic stress because it's a parasympathetic nervous system issue, right? It's not a chemical imbalance. So when you start treating something that's your fight or flight system, your response has been hardwired, right? So it's offset, and that's really what you see with PTSD. But it's not a chemical imbalance, and the VA treats a lot with like escitalopram or other types of serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, that are meant to level out chemical imbalances. But when you give a veteran, you know, a medication meant to level out chemical imbalances for an issue that has nothing to do with a chemical imbalance, right? You're going to create one, i.e. leading to degradation of quality of life. And you wonder why we're looking at 22 suicides a day. We need to be going toward methods that are healthy and active, and that over time, you know, human nature hasn't changed. Human beings haven't changed. That's what medicine should be. is naturally allowing the body to heal itself and not putting man-made drugs in yourself. So anyway, when I was up at the VA, I ended up leaving. I call it the PTSD bundle. Escitalopram, prazosin, gabapentin, Ultram. I mean, just and the list goes on and on. When I left and I was no longer in that controlled environment, I saw an extreme decline very quickly in my overall on those medications. You know, I wouldn't remember why I went from upstairs to downstairs. I realized that I really needed to make a change. And that's when I adopted, I started going back to what I knew from being on the infantry line. So I adopted a structured routine, right? I got rid of everything cold turkey. It really sucked. It was hard. I don't recommend it. Titrate, do things the proper way, right? But I was in a hard spot and I was going one way or the other. So I needed to make a decision. So I started waking up every morning, 4 a.m. You structure yourself, you start working out, you slowly get back into it and release those endorphins. You become self-aware. You become real self-aware. You understand what triggers you, what heightens those symptoms or issues. So the music I listen to, if I'm not working out, I'm not pumped up, and I'm just going about my day-to-day business, I want to listen to reggae or something calm, cool, or collective. If I'm in the gym, 5-finger death punch is, 100% okay, and I'm all over it. That'll be my go-to. But understanding what external stimulus heighten those responses to your service-related issues is also, self-awareness, period, is detrimental to mitigating these symptoms naturally. So once I got on that structured schedule, started working out, I obviously got rid of the booze, got rid of the medication. I started doing proper nutrition, diet. I got linked up with individuals who are like-minded doing the same things. And I still have struggles. That's never going to change. We're all going to have struggles. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. But when you're not self-medicating, when you're not on traditional medications with modern medicine,
and not on booze,
and when you're actively engaging in your own self-awareness and health, you start to understand that these symptoms, like when I still go through my depression bouts or I still go through my anxiety bouts, right? It's never going to go away. But I can learn to live with it in a productive manner and mitigate it, and over time, slowly kind of retrain my central nervous system. So you are, over time, you can almost get rid of PTSD, but it's understanding and being self-aware, and it's not easy. It's not a pill, right? It's not a quick fix. So all these things and finding that really worked for me, and obviously going out kayaking, going out hiking. I grew up on Whidbey Island in Washington State, is where I was originally from. So those are things that I grew up doing. So once I started engaging in those activities again, coupled with proper diet and nutrition, I saw a dramatic change in my ability just to navigate the civilian world, be around other people, mitigate negative responses to external stimulus that shouldn't, heighten my response, but it's going to just because you're reintegrating, you're coming from, a structured environment. My formidable years were in the military on the active duty line. So it's going to be hard, to translate that thought process and all those things to the civilian world, to be productive in the community without being looked at in a negative manner, because PTSD and wartime is so stigmatized, right? Those service-related issues are stigmatized within the society.
So I want to break down real quick, because I know people who have tried to get off the SSRIs and have real serious issues with the cold turkey thing. So you got off how many cold turkey at one time?
Oh, it had, let's see, prazosin, gabapentin, Ultram, lorazepam. Oh my goodness, there's more too. There's at least a few more.
Probably
So six or seven, yeah.
Safely.
Probably six
So
or
you
seven.
did that all cold turkey?
All cold turkey.
And how long did it take you to get through it? And what were your, what was going through your mind? What was your body doing? All those things.
So when I first started getting off those medications, cold turkey, it sucked. It was at least two weeks, maybe even 3, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Heart palpitations, cold sweats, not sleeping at night. It's like your body goes through the shock process because these drugs are no longer in your system. Right. And the majority of the drugs that they give you, right, like SSRIs, are meant to build up in your system. They're meant to build up through your system, or antipsychotics or other things that they use to treat these service-related issues are meant to build up in your system. So then when you get off them cold turkey, that's why a lot of people go to high school or to a hospital, or to inpatient programs to titrate off these meds. Unfortunately, modern doctors don't really like to see you titrate off of what they prescribed, right? Or what the VA prescribed because they don't want it to go out of insurance.
You're breaking free, bro.
Yeah, I'm breaking free. I'm taking the chains off.
It's like it's the big Indian and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, leaving the building.
But it was easily 2 to 3 weeks of embracing the suck, and that's what you got to do. It's hard. It's not easy. I still struggle every day. Some days are great too, and some days are horrible. Some days I still don't want to get out of bed, but I don't have a choice. And you pull yourself out of bed, you make it happen because you're setting a standard, you're setting an example, and you're setting a precedence for other people to follow by. Right.
Right.
Because the way we don't live on the memories of our brothers and sisters who have made the ultimate sacrifice. I haven't done shit. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, and war or anything else, I haven't done nothing. But the way we live on the memories of our brothers and sisters is by actively engaging in our health after we leave service and being the best parents that we can be, having the best lives that we can have, being the best community members that we can be, because that shows who we are, the experiences we had, how they formed us. And it sets a precedence that, PTSD or TBI or service-related issues, and just because people go to war or do things to make this country free doesn't mean they need to be in a cage the rest of their lives afterwards or be put on severe antipsychotics or medications afterwards.
Jeff, go ahead.
No, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. And I mean, not in any way to minimize. I mean, you're talking about PTSD, which is huge, but I think something you brought up is really at the crux of like self-defense and self-care, and that's self-awareness. You can't fix a problem unless you're aware that there is a problem, whether it's, like I said, mental, spiritual, psychological, your relationships, being aware of things that aren't lending itself to your higher self. There has to be at the root of that a certain level of self-awareness to start, like you said, mitigating certain things that either trigger you or are toxic for you. Again, at the root, I think of a lot of these conversations we're going to be having is something you mentioned, which is self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And so that's the tagline of our nonprofit is healthy mind, healthy life, right? You take care of your body, you take care of your mind, you keep your mind healthy, you're going to have a healthy life. You're going to be more productive. And again, that doesn't mean there's not going to be good days or bad days. And then that correlates, just like you were saying, Jeff, that correlates right into our supplement company and the standard we want to set with that, right? Downrange Supplements is a method to create high quality products that's ran by a combat veteran owned and operated group, but also supporting a combat veteran, owned and operated nonprofit, giving back to our community, and continually improve your fighting position is the tagline there. And when we say continually improve your fighting position, right? Obviously, we do stuff with the pro fight community. We support Sean, we support Colton, we support Ryan. Yeah. Pat, we love you, brother. But continue to improve your fighting position. That's what correlates to physically, emotionally, mentally. You're continually improving your fighting position, your position in life at all times, and your ability to execute, whether that's on the mats, whether that's on the range, whether that's downrange, or whether that's just being a parent and being a productive person and getting yourself to a better place in life, period, to be more proactive, right? Because it's all in the eye of the beholder. It's, not everyone's got to be a pro athlete, or not everyone's got to be an operator, not everyone's got to have combat experience. It's what are you doing just to better yourself, to make sure your best foot's forward every morning. You're setting that example for your kids. You're more importantly, setting that example for the community and society in general, so we can start promoting, healthy mind, body methods and techniques just overall, right?
Right. That's the thing that we see, it's hard for Americans because they're bombarded with a lot of information, commercials, and things about products that, don't solve health issues. And so, Downrange Supplements and some other supplement companies, Downrange is the only veteran-owned one that I support. But, people understanding how to improve their health, how to clean their body out, how to clean their cells throughout their entire body, reset their gut bacteria, all those different things. You've got to have your health to be able to move forward in all those ranges of self-defense that you want to. It starts with your health, right?
No, absolutely. And if you're not maintaining, proper health, proper nutrition, a proper structured routine, more importantly for people struggling with service-related issues or any health conditions that doesn't need to be serviced, but just generally people that might not have mental health issues, but them just continually staying on top of that stuff on a daily basis is extremely important. Extremely important today.
Yeah, maintaining, like, that's kind of what screwed up so many people, like with COVID. regardless of the routines, whether it was going to like AA meetings or whatever it was they're struggling with, it wound up fucking up their routine. And you know, you guys know, not only veteran suicides every 22 seconds, like the number of the people, domestic violence, emergency room visits, suicides went through the roof because people's routine got screwed up. I mean, that was just,
overdoses, all kinds
all
of stuff.
All of it, man.
And it's so preventable, you know, Jeff, and that never made sense to me because you're talking about a virus that has a 97% survival rate, right?
99.7.
Yeah, what ridiculously high.
Yes.
And I get it. You know, we should all be cautious. We should all be aware of people that have immune deficiency. Whatever. Wash your hands. Personal care. I understand. I get that. But 6 months
Comes down to terrain, though.
Yeah.
I don't want to get this because, not to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
you know, there's germ theory and there's terrain theory, right? Again, we hear out of the news folks and, you know, all the folks at the health departments and all of this saying, yeah, disinfect your hands, wash down everything, you know, stay away from people, all this other stuff. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they'll say, well, people that are obese and have, you know, comorbidities are extra, you know, vulnerable to these types of things like the flu and other things like that. So what they're saying is, actually, it's the terrain that the germs and the bacteria and the viruses land on, you know, will dictate, you know, how your chances are going to be. So ultimately, it comes down to immune system and being healthy, working out, eating right, taking proper supplementation, right?
Yep, absolutely. And the thing you got to realize here, and again, that's, you know, this big pharma and our society in general, you know, keeping people sick is a return business, right? You get someone healthy, they're not coming back. But as unfortunate it is to go back to the point, you know, when people were in quarantine and it messed up their routines, Jeff, 6 months of social isolation causes high blood pressure, diabetes, hypertension, depression. These are all scientific facts in modern medicine journals, right? So these same people that want you inside, confined and restricted, right? So you don't die from this 99% survivable virus are giving you a much higher probability of actually becoming sick and actually degrading your immune system because now you're isolated from everyone else and everything too, right? And all the depression and everything else. You're going to have a higher probability of coming out of quarantine and way worse health.
Well, and even what they were doing with I mean, granted, this is kind of a throwback to our old show, Pat, but might as well just keep it 100. What they were doing with the kids in schools, like now it's like, you know, between the masks and the 6 feet apart, and you can't eat lunch at this table with your friends. Now it's like, oops, we kind of dropped the ball on, you know, the protocols as far as how it went with kids. In my opinion, they knew what the fuck they were doing.
Absolutely.
And then like hindsight, they're acting like hindsight's 2020. Well, if we had only known, like you said, we know about what isolation does to people, you know, whether it's physiological, like you said, from a mental standpoint or from a physical standpoint, high blood pressure, diabetes, etc.
Damage alone is severe. I mean, it's affected a lot of people. It affected me quite a bit, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a person that was out doing broadcasts almost every week around large crowds, you know, traveling, all that sort of stuff, and then suddenly being locked in the house and not being able to go to my favorite restaurants and all that sort of stuff and hang out with my friends because everything else was closed down. It was a bit ridiculous. But I'm going to shift gears here in terms of, now that we've talked about health, psychological, mental, spiritual, all of that, you know, I want to talk a little bit about actual physical self-defense, obviously, because you're a combat veteran, you know, and we've got an awful lot of Americans that are concealed carry. And, you know, I've always said, you know, humans are the only animal that don't know how to defend themselves, that aren't born with self-defense instincts from birth, where every other animal, I mean, a little puppy wolf will bite your ass if you go around it, right?
Yeah.
They're just born with self-defense instincts.
Yeah.
So you have to be taught. And, you know, what are your thoughts on people who go out and get a concealed carry with the minimum qualifications, don't learn how to even keep the weapon, don't do any self-defense, empty hand self-defense, you know, again, you know, all of those things that are going on. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you need to be continually improving your fighting position in life, period, right? So the biggest thing, and you look up statistics, back when I was in college, I actually did a paper on gun laws. And it was actually shown that the majority of accidental shootings were in homes with children who had not been educated on the firearms or educated on the process. So you have a parent, right, that shows your kid the gun and says, hey, it's here, don't touch it. Now it's a forbidden fruit. You're not teaching them anything about it. You're not giving them instruction, but it's a child. So now that child wants to know why it's so important to mom or dad. Why is this thing so cool? Now it's like a shiny object. don't press the button, right? The kid wants to press the button.
Yeah, don't spill your milk. They'll spill
right now the child's grabbing the gun. Next thing you know, they're shooting themselves because they didn't know. They weren't educated, right? So education in anything is key.
Sure.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. Education in anything is key. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance costs lives. Complacency costs lives, right? So in my opinion, you should absolutely have your Second Amendment right. You should be training yourself and maintaining some sort, of instructional integrity in terms of your knowledge base on weapons, firearms, hand-to-hand combat, going to training with guys like you, right? Guys like Ryan or Sean, whatever the case may be. But it's imperative that people be teaching their children, teaching themselves, even the most basic, handgun classes or self-defense classes, to be able to protect themselves and their families. Because criminals aren't going to stop being criminals, okay? Just because you tell a criminal he can't have a gun because he's a felon, he's not going to stop carrying a gun. And if you make it harder for law-abiding citizens, or people are scared, to carry guns or protect themselves, you're now becoming a victim. There's no sense in making yourself the victim when you don't need to be. It doesn't mean go out there and be one of those guys that's imprinting with you. I hate imprinters, man. Concealed carries, they make sure wear a nice tight shirt. Yeah, I'm wearing a big old handgun.
Yeah.
That's the first target I'm looking for if I am a criminal. Because I'm going to say that guy's armed. I need to take out that threat before anyone else, right? If I'm going to rob this place.
Yeah, same thing with open carry. Why would you let the criminal know you're carrying a gun? Because you're going to be the first person they're going to sneak up on and shoot before they start doing what they're doing, So that makes perfect sense, yeah.
Well, as it relates, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's absolutely imperative to maintain education. You don't have to like guns. You don't have to agree with guns. Yes, I understand there's bad people sometimes that use guns, but that doesn't make guns bad. They can serve a purpose, from self-sustaining food, right, and giving you sustainment, to protecting your family, your life, liberty, and your property. So it's imperative to have knowledge about those things. They're not going anywhere. So,
well, if only swords existed right now and that was the most dangerous weapon, I would hope that citizens would be able to carry swords, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that only makes sense. If the bad guys can carry guns, I should be able to protect myself. That's just, common sense. And they are, it's in middle school, 6th grade, in woodshop, learning how to run a bandsaw. And other power tools that can chop your hand off in a blink of an eye. So why shouldn't you teach? There's a dangerous end and a safe end to everything.
Of course. Well, and like you said, going back to training, like anything else, you don't get a driver's license without some measure of training how to drive a car. And I was curious, the role, in training, because I think a lot of people, not a lot, but many people are freaked out about guns, even though I want one, but there's that fear element. What role do you think, not only just training, but like muscle memory has? So when if you've never been faced with something or trained on it, you're like, oh fuck, what do I do, as opposed to being placed in the most simulated real life experiences and then having that muscle memory to know exactly what to do, or whatever training and protocols involved with firearm self-defense. The role of muscle memory is my question.
That knowledge is power, man. You absolutely need muscle memory, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that's it in anything creating muscle memory, from a self-defense or from a tactical standpoint, right? So and I'm no one special. Again, let me reiterate that. I went through infantry training, did all that stuff, but we go out to, OP6 Alpha or do military mount training, or CQM and CQB, and you do highs and lows, rolling T's, different button hooks, different methods, fire team formations and movements, but you do them. We go out there for 2 weeks at a time, and you do the same movement over and over and over and over and over and over again, because you're creating muscle memory. So then when your body is put in a situation, right, where that fight response mode comes in. Sorry, guys, too much pre-workout this morning. comes in, your body can naturally react because it's already conditioned, right? In terms of the muscle memory and the motor skills needed for that next action, because you've gone through it over and over and over. So a way to do that, right, as a civilian or as just a regular citizen, bettering themselves or continually improving their fighting position at home, there's tons of things that you can do in terms of small arms. Go get one of those dry fire lasers. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sit at home and just practice bringing that out, firing, understanding where your safety is, understanding where, if you have a standard thumb safety, if you have, a beaver tail and a trigger safety, so because it's made more for self-defense, so you're meant to fire that weapon when you're handling
it. And those can be Bluetooth into your laptop, and it'll tell you how accurate your shooting was and things like that.
Cool.
Absolutely. So you can completely, they have those kits that they make, and you can completely basically make your weapon safe. They even make bolts you can switch out in M4s, all kinds of stuff, man. So there's no way you can do anything wrong. But dry fire, go through the motions, dry fire that weapon. Practice putting rounds on target. And when I say rounds on target, it's a laser, right? But they make little targets too, where it'll tell you where you're hitting, and those lasers will come back and read, and you can read it through your laptop. There's all kinds of stuff, but absolutely. The point is there's a tons of methods and techniques that you can utilize to learn proper small arms handling, right? And proper small arms execution in terms of self-defense that you can purchase, at any firearm shop or online.
Right. And basically, obviously the safety is the most important thing to constantly practice and reiterate with people. But, just the simple things like finding cover, is so important when it comes to bullets are flying around. And then what's the backdrop? If there's a bad guy shooting, what's behind it, right?
Yep.
So that's things that a lot of people just don't think about.
Understanding
cops have to deal with that, and soldiers as well.
Yep.
Right. In certain scenarios where there's innocent people around, but the bad guy doesn't care. They're indiscriminately spreading bullets. So there's a lot of stuff that can get involved in that to complicate the situation, right?
Well, yeah, and that's where situational awareness comes in, right? Like when we were downrange, they would have you'd have to have PID. There was different levels of PID, right? Positive identification. So like when I first went to Iraq, it was like 51% PID or something like that, and then it could be 60% PID. So for you to be able to fire back, right? So, and that's taken into account, like you were talking about, civilians, everything else surrounding the area, hearts and minds, guys. So, okay, you're getting shot at. Where are you getting shot at from? Can you see the weapon in the person's hands? Where are the bullets going in what direction? So the level of information you need to go through an escalation of force in order to return fire for that PID level is just dependent, right? If it's 50% PID or something, okay, there's a guy shooting at us over there, return fire, right? If it's some ridiculously restricted level, you might basically be having to just be taking rounds for a while until you identify everyone and their targets and their surroundings, but before higher up will allow you to return fire.
Well, I've talked to a lot of guys, like that, where the rules of engagement were ridiculous, where, okay, we know they're bad guys. We can see they're coming through with a bunch of camels, and they've got tons of ammo, RPGs, all kinds of crazy stuff that they're bringing in. And they got to get out there and do a tap dance and stuff to get them to shoot at them before they can shoot back at them. It's crazy. But I was going to bring up too, when you came back and had to deal with because the selfless acts that you witnessed and probably obviously took part in looking out for your buddies that are your combat buddies to your left and right, and then you come back to a civilian society that is kind of cutthroat, to say the least, and very selfish-minded, and driven by a lot of ego. I mean, that's got to be something for veterans when they come back after combat and going, wow.
So I think that's one of the biggest struggles, and this is why I love. So Siak retired Troxel,
yeah.
Colton, Siak Troxel's huge with this too, but I love that guy because it's the same premise. The enlisted corporate takeover, right, is what he calls it. Us working with him and Colton. And he understands that these enlisted personnel and this mindset and this drive that the military can teach you at its most fundamental and basic, form creates leaders. And it creates people who are driven, who understand embracing the suck and understand moving with a purpose and execution. But it's a different model than what civilian corporations and the civilian society uses in terms of communication. So with all that being said,
a lot of feelings.
Yeah, great. Not black and white, right? Real gray. So one of the biggest struggles I had, which led to me being in St. Cloud, and I'm sure the majority of veterans have, that's a lot of it is that communication. So when I got out and I started contracting as a family assistance specialist for the Illinois Guard Bureau, I was doing soldier and family readiness, casework. Someone might come in and have an issue. We find a resolution and a resource to that issue and implement a tentative plan of action to take steps to make sure that problem doesn't happen again for that soldier, that family. But then you have those people coming in with the same issues again and again. Active duty and the reserves and guard are two completely different beasts. So my thought process, right, is very black and white and active duty line oriented. So I'd be like, no, I'm not helping you. We went through these courses of action. We got you the help you need. We talked about what you needed to do for this to not happen again, and it still occurred, which means you're not heeding that advice or those warnings. At that point, you're now enabling people. You're not helping people. It's about giving a hand up, not a handout, right? So that was understood to me. But then, I was told, nope, you need to help them. Nope, you need to help them. No, I'm enabling these people at that point, right? Well, Mr. Flack, you're too crass. You're too abrasive. You're too explosive in my communication styles. So it's not, I'm not personalizing it. It's not me attacking anybody. That's just the way I was taught to communicate. That's why my NCOERs were good when I was in the military, right? Because my effective communication style and techniques and stuff like that, different things, but it's moving with a purpose. So here's the problem. Here's the solutions. Here's contingency plans to those solutions. Let's execute. But now in the civilian world, so that's the military frame of mind, right? Very clear, concise, right and left limits, move with a purpose, execute, go. Then you get to the civilian purpose. All right, Jan, I know you'd like to do it this way, but I think we can do it a much better way, even though your way's great. So you need to explain it almost in the civilian, corporate market world like this, or people take severe offense to how you're trying to execute and move.
Thus the creation of the HR department.
Thus the creation of the HR department. But I actually just did with Marcia McClellan in Assurance with a couple other people that keynoted about mental health and awareness and veterans in the workplace. And that was where I had a huge struggle, was just trying to, going from being praised for the way I would execute on tasks and things in the military to basically being called crass and abrasive and explosive when I got out. It was a disconnect for me, because I'm like, I don't get it. I wake up earlier than everybody. I go to bed later than everybody. I put in more work than everybody. I'm trying to lead by example, like I was taught to be an NCO. Right. And you guys are attacking me for trying to execute, telling me I need to not do so much. You're telling me, don't be driven. Don't be driven.
Is it another form of needing and requiring a certain level of situational awareness once again? Because one environment necessitates more of a rigid approach and the other one not so much, but still attempting to get results, but just using a different methodology.
No, absolutely. And here's the thing. As combat veterans and being taught we also have the ability to adapt, right? Right. To adapt and overcome. Some of us. But yes, we should absolutely be aware that it doesn't make it any easier, Jeff. We should absolutely be aware that we're going into a completely different, rank and file structure, different execution, style, different communication style and techniques. But I think there needs to be awareness on both ends. We need to be aware of the fact that we are coming out with experiences, and world values that are not understood by the majority of the civilian population stateside, right? So it changes your priorities, it changes your vision, it changes your views and what's important stateside and how you prioritize things, right? And it doesn't make you any better or any worse. But I will say that, yes, as combat veterans, we do need to be aware that there is going to be that transition, that we can't expect them to completely accommodate us. That's absolutely asinine. But I think finding a common ground, and this is what I was talking about with Marcia McClellan, like, having orientations, like all corporate officers do orientations and stuff like that. Do orientations. You don't call out the veterans in the office and you don't call out the civilians in the office, but you talk about, hey, if there's combat veterans in the office, please understand these individuals have a tendency to communicate more in this type of method and technique. And we understand you're more used to this method and technique, and vice versa, right? So we're back to education, guys. We're back to education, right? Education's key no matter what you do. So understanding both sides of the fence and trying to find that middle ground. And you can adapt and do that, because we can't expect them to accommodate us. But from my experiences, I could have done a lot better. But from my experiences, we also need to expect them to have some level of appreciation for our drive, for our want and need to be goal and solution oriented instead of problem oriented, right? So it's finding that middle ground to make those two worlds meet. Right. And I think it's through orientation within those corporations, right? Getting both those groups together and creating awareness, But it's just going to be over time too. It's just going to be over time as veterans continue to reintegrate. All things are time, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge, understanding, whatever it is. And I think as we grow as a country, as we grow as people, as we grow as human beings, we'll learn to transition these things better, as we move on.
And humans are easily conditioned no matter what, right? So
For sure.
you're coming from, years of combat experience and doing things a certain way. And then we've got, a lot of people are being conditioned in public school systems and universities that it's all about feelings, right? It's all about not hurting people's feelings. And look, the real world, when it comes to business, you're going to get your feelings hurt. That's just the way it is. I mean, people will rob you blind if you don't pay attention. I've been taken to the cleaners by people who have a ton of business experience, and when I wasn't paying attention, and that's just the way it is. Did it hurt my feelings? Yeah. Did I want to go do something? Sure, I did. But
you don't got feelings, Pat.
But ultimately, it's, I think, people have to pay attention to the deal that best way to put it is we've got to quit catering to the lowest common denominator in the room. We should expect those people to step it up and raise their level of consciousness, their level of physical performance, their level of mental clarity, all these different things. Because when I teach law enforcement seminars, for instance, I will just say, myself or my former business partner Don, we would just tell them that we're not going to give you a certificate if you can't perform this stuff, because you have to go back and teach the rest of the officers. We want to know that you can actually do the stuff we're teaching you, and you have to be able to teach it. So we're going to do this until everyone gets it, period, end of story, and make it very clear to them, and then they would understand you're going to do this.
Yeah, we need to get away from that. Everyone gets a trophy mentality.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And I agree, to say that, and I don't want to bring, it's just an example, but I don't want to bring up, I'm going to, but like COVID issues again, right? Like individuals who weren't the best of health, but I'd see, somebody who's extremely obese smoking a cigarette out of the side of their mask while walking into McDonald's, okay?
While yelling at
somebody for not washing their hands or masking up themselves.
What were you doing at the McDonald's?
I don't.
You can still see them walking in. But I always found that deliciously ironic, too. Like people who were clearly not Mr. or Mrs. Goodbody, like you said, triple masking, smoking, and then like clearly health isn't a fucking priority for you. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, but to pigtail or to dovetail into what Pat was talking about, catering to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
That's what we can't be doing. So it's your right. If you want to wear a mask, put a bubble on. If you want to live a certain way, as long as you're not hurting other people in the society or the community, whatever your race, religion, sex is, doesn't matter. I don't care if you're gay, straight, Mormon, Islam, doesn't matter. None of that matters. But you can't expect other people, you can't force other people to adopt your beliefs and adopt your moral and ethical values and standards, because they just might not have the same. And it doesn't make them wrong. And it doesn't make them different. The thing that makes America great from the beginning is we're a melting pot. We removed ourselves from a monarchy, so we didn't have micromanaging. We created the land of the free, right? So every race, religion, creed could live here without fear of prosecution, regardless of anything else. So we all need to get back to learning how to agree to disagree. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think all it comes down to is the individual is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, if 340 million people in this country want to do something, and that one person doesn't agree with it and doesn't want to take part,
it's all right.
That's their right. That's all I care about is one individual.
And that's a part of the social conditioning we're seeing now in social engineering, that the individual is being frowned upon more and more, and it's all about the collective and groups. And of course, they take these groups, divide people into groups, and then play those groups off against each other, and the individuals just kind of get lost in the wash, and it almost becomes like, I don't know, a bad thing to have individual thought and not be prescribed to some necessarily group mentality or group think.
Well, in I guess something that one of our common friends, Jake Priest, pointed out. He said, the different thing about Americans is where they will, in high stress situations in combat, will have to make decisions without, asking their higher ups, what do we do here? if your life's in danger, you just act and make decisions and do what you got to do, where a lot of other cultures won't do that in military standings. Right. And so a lot of basically that thought process carried over to civilian life, and individual rights is where we should really be putting our sense towards.
Because if you don't carry on that thought process, right, and you take the individual thought process away to bring constructive criticism, to bring different viewpoints into things, and you shut down with this cult-like group mentality, that's what creates socialism. That's what creates micromanaging systems. That's what it does, right? Because now these like-minded individuals, as that grows, you're not willing to look at anything else. You're tunnel vision completely. So if you're out, you're out, or if you're in, and that just, it creates a volatile situation.
Sure.
Period.
Questioning your beliefs every day.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to. Right, Jeff?
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, we're seeing it play out right in front of us with, it's next level. But I mean, we can't allow the individual to be demonized in lieu of, like I said, the herd mentality. It's just not a non-player. I don't know how much longer we have, but I wanted to bring something up to you going back to the beginning of this conversation, because Pat and I had an awesome opportunity on another broadcast called Everything Combat, where we talked to a guy by the name of Micah Fink, former U.S. Navy SEAL, and started a program where he was having returning veterans with PTSD work with like wild Mustangs. And you had mentioned something in the beginning where there was kayaking, hiking, grounding yourself, which is, walking around barefoot. But the common denominator in that is being in nature. How important, I mean, obviously Micah, was hands down, was like, dude, this is changing people's lives. But there's that interacting with nature aspect of it. How important and how powerful, and speak to that, the role of nature in not even just PTSD, just fucking remaining sane after a hard day at work. You know what I mean? Shutting the phone off, shutting the TV off, go for a hike kind of thing. What's the role nature has played for you? And overall, the role of nature.
Well, I mean, so to start off, keep this in mind. Outward Bound has been doing wilderness therapy since the 1940s. If they've been doing wilderness therapy since the 1940s, there's a reason for it. Okay. It's removing external stimulus from the body, and it's important for anybody to reset. So your body, it's not natural for it to have TVs going constantly, to have cell phones connected to it constantly, to see lights right at the intersections constantly. All these things are inundating your body with external stimulus, which heightens your response to it, your anxiety, your sleep patterns, your ability to reach REM, all these things. When people leave TVs on at night, 9 times out of 10, your body's not going to reach natural REM sleep because of that static, and everything in the background is keeping your subconscious mind stimulated, right? So you're not hitting REM sleep. So the ability to remove all those external stimulus to reset is extremely imperative. So going out to nature, when you're putting down your cell phone for a little bit, when you're getting rid of those stop signs, when you're getting rid of just the daily grind, motorists, cars, carcinogens that are within a metro area, right? And you're breathing cleaner air, all those noises and sounds and things that your body's trying to process and articulate and everything else, whether you have issues or not, right? You remove all that. It allows your body to really come down to center. It allows you to have a different perspective and mindset, right? So like when I was going through the worst of family courts because of my tactical training and time in service and PTSD, what I learned was taking off, and I'd go to the DNR site and I'd pick the water trail map out. I'd figure out where I needed a portage, where the natural wildlife areas are. I could primitive camp. I grabbed a gallon of water and 550'd it to my kayak. Got my service dog's food in there. I had tuna fish packets, just healthy. So my food intake was minimal over those 5 days, right? So now my body's thinking about the most basic things, concentrating on the next step, what I need to do, surviving, sustenance, everything else with those external stimulus removed. It's almost like a legitimate reset. Your body's getting this completely different and new intake of vitamin D, of nutrients, of nature and beauty and
getting dirty.
Yeah, getting dirty.
Yeah.
But it legitimately allows your mind and body to do 2 or 3 days in the world, even a few hours, because people have busy schedules, but even getting out on a bike ride, even getting out on a bike ride and putting nature sounds in or going to a quieter place is going to help on the most basic level. And again, Outward Bound's been doing this since the 40s, so that doesn't need to change. You know, the excursions we've been doing since 2015, and not only has it helped me, but it's helped countless other veterans in the Quad Cities. And Mike, I mean, look at guys like Mike. Mike Brayman's a perfect example. He's a former commander for the Iowa State VFW.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up.
Yeah, we went on a 2-day fishing excursion. Mike had adopted. He's so busy and doing the VFW, does so many phenomenal things for veterans in the state of Iowa. But he was so inundated and overwhelmed that his health really got out of control. Right, his ability to take nutritional advice and eat properly.
Putting everybody's welfare ahead of his.
Ahead of his, absolutely. So we went out and he reset in those 2 days. So we were fishing. Him and Pat were catching fish. We did got him through a couple little sections of whitewater, camped overnight, and it reset his thought process. That overnight and those 2 days completely reset his thought process. And he went right back into a productive health and fitness routine. And I mean, he's doing phenomenal. He's down like 20 pounds, 25.
Set up a gym in his garage.
Set up a gym in his garage. He's
Wow.
down 25 pounds, but staying healthy and engaging, that and being out there, it changes lives. And yes, it's real. Nature therapy is real. Wilderness therapy is real. Grounding is real. There's all these powers and things moving around the universe at any given time, right? From electrons that are moving through the earth and the crust and everything else shifting. This all goes somewhere. It's all energy, and it's all positive energy that our bodies can be using naturally to help mitigate symptoms, help reset your thought process, and really just help you be a better person.
Yeah, I mean, we're so, like you said, we're so busy, man, and the human body is very resilient. We can run the engine in the red for a long time, but it's just, some people, I mean, I don't know, just aren't aware necessarily of how powerful and how simple something like a bike ride or a walk or a hike or an overnight camping trip, even in such a short period of time. Because like you said, man, we're so inundated with all this freaking Wi-Fi and like even just lights and all the external stimuli you talk about. And just being able to just have that shut off without necessarily going into like a sensory deprivation chamber, but just like even just stargazing at night and just the silence of nature. I mean, it's, for me personally, years ago, man, I went on a couple of my boys, like a month-long camping trip, essentially, out west, Utah, Colorado, Arizona. I didn't see a city for freaking almost a month. And it was all just completely detached. And coming towards the end of it, I was like, obviously sad because I had to come back to the world, but I felt different, dude. There was something absolutely different that happened to me being just completely, this is before cell phones were so ubiquitous, but just from my own testimony, dude, that shit is absolutely real. That's why I love getting out. I'm super busy, but I can't do it as much as I want. But no, you're absolutely right, man. Nature and being immersed in nature and cutting ourselves off from all that external stimuli is absolutely powerful, man.
Yep. And it gives you perspective, right?
Yes.
It gives you a ridiculous amount of perspective. So things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, spending money on unnecessary things, putting yourself in financial hardship, making poor health decisions. Yep. And that just gave me your month trip, Jeff. That's a perfect example. That's enough time to legitimately be able to stand back and say, wow, I don't need these things. I'm out here living right now, and it's completely different, and I feel great. I don't need to do A, B, C, D, and E. All I need is E and F. That's all I need.
And during that time, I actually, not that it was kind of whatever, it was cool. I happened to pick up Bruce Lee's book, the Tao Jeet Kune Do, The Way of the Intercepting Fist, and obviously it talks about fighting styles, but it was the spiritual life application that I was able to glean from that was just powerful. I mean, there was so many just different lessons as I'm out in the bush and completely disconnecting. That was providing a reset, but this book and getting these insights spiritually was huge, man. I mean, I can't. It's ineffable. I can't really describe what it did for me, but it was absolutely amazing, man. So just anybody listening to this, it's powerful, man. Take a walk, shut off, leave the phone at home. My mom sleeps with the TV on. I can only imagine. She's been doing it for years. I can only imagine how shitty she's been sleeping for so long. But no, that's absolutely true. Having that external stimuli while you're sleeping is just, it interrupts, like you said, your REM cycles. Yeah.
So, before we sign off, why don't you tell us about your brand new product?
Oh yeah, Downrange supplements, guys. So we got a ton of great products. But basically, the whole premise is we've created a brand of high-quality supplements, right, that can legitimately represent the military and first responder demographic. Nothing's on the DoD banned substance list. Everything's going to be conducive to mission effectiveness. And on the back of all of our products, you'll see how it supports Downrange Excursions. And when it gives us the ability to support our nonprofit, it also gives us the ability to support other organizations like the VFW and the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, do co-opted things with them, because that's really what we're about. The two primary owners of our company, there's 4 of us, but the two primary ones, myself and Wade Whiting, we're both 100% service-connected combat vets. We both have full pensions. We do this to give back. We do this to set a standard, to set a precedence, so they know, military men and women in uniform know that we're legitimately here for them. We want to see them live healthier, active lives, and we want to see that. We want to lead by example and see that trickle down. And we've got a ton of great products for him. Refit's one of the ones we actually launched because of Pat, and the phenomenal things he's done with humic fulvic acid. Mind, body, farm to table, man. I mean, just everything you've done on that end. I mean, you helped us put together a product because of what you've done there on the health side. So we have a greens humic fulvic with a full multivitamin. We've got single-use hydration sticks, which have patented anti-inflammatories to them. We obviously have our pre-workouts, and we have all the best proteins on the market, baby, from banana hammock to tropical vanilla to chocolate bomb. And if you're drinking those Atomic Coffee protein smoothies, that's all tropical vanilla. That's Atomic Coffee's exclusive protein right there. So you're taking Downrange every day, whether it's Davenport, Rock Island, or Bettendorf. You're getting some Downrange subs. But yeah, high quality. We got more great stuff coming out. We're working with some great companies right now to get the products into the PXs and the exchanges. But we're trying to keep it primarily with combat veteran-owned retailers right now. Because it's the brand of the troops, by troops. That's what we're about. And we don't want to degrade the exclusivity of the brand by bringing it anywhere else. GovX too, guys. So GovX, you can go on GovX, has all Downrange Subs products for sale. And they'll vet your military IDs, first responder IDs right there. And you can purchase all your Downrange Subs products directly through GovX as well. But yeah, it's, we've been doing some great things there. And Downrange is really, really helping us create a model to continue to generate unrestricted revenue to give back, to do something good.
And we've got an event coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yep. November 12th.
So we're going to do at the VFW in Des Moines, right?
Yep. The VFW, the Beaverdale Post.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a fight night there. We're going to be having donations. Folks can come and watch some great fights and donate for hot wings and fries and food. Yep. And, if that's what they want to have. And of course, there'll be beverages there for everybody. And so we're going to get a bunch of people together for a good cause, raise money for veterans groups, and have a good time. So Kevin, I wanted to say thank you for joining us, buddy.
Absolutely. Always appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. You. And Jeff, you want to take us away?
Yeah, no, I just thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it, man. I mean, just hearing your story, I mean, you hear the cycle, if you will, of these guys getting overprescribed stuff. And, obviously you went through what you went through. So I appreciate you doing what you're doing to help hopefully break some of that cycle of some of your veterans who've come home and had issues, and hopefully find a healthier way to adapt and reintegrate into society, man. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. It's all of us working together to accomplish a like-minded goal. So
Sweet.
It's all of us collectively that does it.
And obviously it's for veterans and first responders. What is the link or the website for Downrange?
So if you're interested in the nonprofit side, if you're in the Midwest or the Quad City area, go to downrangeexcursions.org. You can check out our website there. It's on Facebook and Instagram too. We'll have the event posted. Pat's got coming up. We are going to do a pheasant hunt, a veteran pheasant hunt coming up here in the Des Moines area. I was actually talking to Mike Grayman about that last night. So you'll be able to see that stuff if you have an honorable discharge, DD-214, or first responder credentials. You can attend these trips for free. This is for you guys. And then if you're interested in supporting that through physical fitness and through Downrange supplements, you can go to downrangesups.com. We ship worldwide. APOEs and FPOAPs as well are included. And you can also subscribe for discounted re-ups and the whole nine. So downrangesups.com or downrangeexcursions.org.
Sweet. Well, champ, it's been a good one. I dug it. Appreciate your time, champ. Appreciate your time, Kevin. And until next time, guys, peace and so much love. Respect.